Okay, so I love D&D campaigns as published. I love running modules. I would rather do that than homebrew, but I have one massive fucking gripe with them, and then also a solution to that gripe. And my issue is that a lot of the times these campaigns take place somewhere where someone's backstory is inaccessible. And what I mean is, like, for instance, Curse of Strahd. The party, no matter what, is always yanked to Barovia, and they cannot leave. They are imprisoned there until they finish the story. Something like Dungeon the Mad Mage might have the same issue, where you go into this deep, dark dungeon, and, like, it's just unreasonable to leave that dungeon again at any point in time unless you're like done with whatever you're doing, which means that when some player has come up to you and they want to join your party, they want to join your campaign, and they give you a backstory that says, hey, here's my hometown, here's my family, here are my enemies, here are the people that I'm familiar with and that I would die for, and then all of a sudden you're no longer in the same place as those people that they would die for, like that whole part of the backstory just kind of gets put to the side. It gets shelved, and that's such a shame because people worked hard to put that backstory into your hands, and also it just makes sense for that to be relevant at some point. It should present some sort of integration into the story or some moral quandary for your character that they then have to deal with. So here's what I do instead. Usually at some point in the campaign, when it comes to, the party being yanked to some other land, I make it so that the big bad guy of that campaign at some point casts a spell. And it's very hand wavy, the mechanics of it. I might change it per the campaign, but they do something that yanks one person at least from every party member's backstory into the world that they're in. So if it's Curse of Strahd, for example, I make it so that when Strahd feels like the party is a big enough threat, she will cast a spell. She's a woman in my campaign. She will cast a spell that yanks one person from every person's backstory into Barovia and places them somewhere in the world. And now the player and the character has no idea who is pulled. They might have an enemy suddenly in the world somewhere that they have to contend with, someone from their past. For example, I had a player who was an ex-cult member, and they absolutely hated their cult leader, like they ran away from the cult. But now this cult leader has been instilled in Barovia as one of Strahd's generals, and it's like gonna be a massive moment of reckoning when they realize that that person is now here and is now a threat and has been given the means to end this character by Strahd. Or, for example, it might be someone who someone wants to save. So for instance, I had another party member in this game. It was a West March style game, so we had like 19 people. Another party member who had a younger sister who had gone missing, and she had no idea what happened to the sister, but she wanted to find out at some point in her existence. And so I made it so that that younger sister was in trouble at some point in the campaign, and the goal was to save her from some other danger and keep her safe. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, this seems like a lot of work. Like, the campaign's already jam-packed with info. How the fuck am I going to work in a whole new NPC? You don't have to. Take an existing NPC from the campaign and replace them with the backstory NPC. So if you have someone who's an enemy, for example, just make it so that one of the enemies in Curse of Strahd or whatever you're running is just renamed to that character, reskinned, reflavored, and now has the backstory that your player already gave you and already wrote for you. It's the simplest thing that you can do to make your players more invested in the game, and also just give them something to worry about, because all of a sudden they know that someone from their past is in the world, but they don't know if that's someone that they want in the world, someone that they want to save, someone who would help them. Could be anything, could be anyone, and they won't know until they reach that point in the game. They go to that location and they find out the hard way.